Yeah, no problem, buddy. No problem at all. Good afternoon, good people. You're watching Brudsy Entertainment, and I am joined with the main man, DJ Reggae. Introduce yourself, buddy. What are you?
I'm a DJ, mate, and I'm also a reggae dancehall producer, believe it or not. Just released a couple of videos last few days, and I'm a man who likes to have a chat with intelligent, intellectual, smart people like your good self, Brad. How are you?
I'm fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Um, Subject of the day: being black and being British and being proud. And do you know what, guys? Probably should have relabeled this. Not just about being black. It probably should be something more or less more of the lines of being of color and being proud to be British. 'Cause I don't want to just stare it because there are Asian black people. There's all types. So, but just to but for the sake of our conversation today, why aren't and with the question that we're asking everyone is why aren't more black people proud to say that they're British? Nikki, let's start with you, buddy. Your experience, first of all, sir, your experience in life growing up, being of color, being British, your experience. Have you ever felt that you weren't able to say that you're proud to be English or proud to be British or whatever?
Well, no, because ever since I was about 4 or 5 years old, my parents were telling me that I'm British
Hmm.
and that we're going to speak a certain way and all this sort of stuff. And got introduced to the British culture, even though my parents aren't from Britain and they moved over here. So for me, it's been a case of right, this is where we are. We slot in nicely, and I've just been brought up as a British person, really, by my
Yeah,
parents,
yeah.
even though they're not British.
Hmm. And have you ever been made to feel like you weren't British?
Well, yeah, because I grew up in a white area, so I've been bullied and stuff. I've had stones thrown at me and all these sorts of things. I've been head butted in the face for nothing. In a racial assault for absolutely nothing. I didn't do anything at all at 17 years old. And that was literally because of the colour of my skin. So you feel slightly less British at those times like that. And then when I went to university, I was in the university first team as a striker. And when we were playing up in the leagues up there, me and my friend Kurt were both targets for sure. But
Mm.
I think that was more to do with the fact that we were black guys and like they weren't really used to us, so it was a case of right, smash his legs in, smash him over there, and then you
Yeah.
know what about you, man?
Um. Now I was trying to think about this. Now, obviously, every black person or every person of color born in England has this experience, and I can remember it as young as when I was in primary school. The teacher would say to me, "Where am I from?" and I would say I was English, and they would say, "Where are you really from?" And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think every person of color that says that they're English has got that story to tell. Like if you don't look like white, Caucasian white, people will ask you that question.
yep.
Where are you really from, though?
Mm, that
And
winds
yeah,
me up.
and it does wind a lot of people up. And I feel like when people do that, what they're doing is if imagine the damage that's done to I was probably 5 or 6. I can remember it as young as that. When I was really young in primary school, when the teachers would say to you, "Where are you from?" and I'd say I was English, and they'd say, "Where are you really from?"
Yeah,
And that's something that will have a psychological effect on you. Imagine being drummed from a young age, sort of thing, of that being continuously. Every time you meet people, I'd probably be a millionaire if I was given a pound for every time that was said to me. So, is that not expected to have an impact on people?
yeah, I think it is because they've already made their minds up that you're not from England or that you're not from Britain. That's why they're asking that question. Such a stupid question. I was just trying to hold up my British passport here because I was born and bred here. Yeah. Um, you know, I wish I had that back then to throw in their faces and say, well, what does it say in there? Because that's where
Mm,
I was born,
mm,
you know.
mm.
But for a lot of people, they're so naive and stupid. It's like, well, they don't even realise that you could be born here.
Yep, yep. And so let's talk about. Obviously, I went to that march, and one of the video.
Yeah.
I went to that march, the Tommy Robinson march, and a lot of the comments I was getting from black people were, "You're a coconut for going there." That's one of the things that I was called
Why?
for
I was
going.
going to ask you about this, Brad. Like, why do you think they're calling you a coconut for going to that march? Because that march was more of a British thing, wasn't it?
It was that march was a mixed bag of loads of things. The official thing was freedom of speech, Tommy Robinson, blah blah blah. But I must admit, not everyone was there for the same reasons, like, you know, and that just, you just have to go and follow the videos that are alive and stuff, people doing interviews. Not everyone was there for Tommy Robinson. Some people were there for a day out. Some people were there to get away from their wife for a day, start drinking heavy with the boys. Like, you know, there was a lot of that. So yeah, so people were calling me a coconut for going, and what you
How did you feel about being called a coconut for going?
I know who I am, like, you know, so there's not much anyone can really say to me that's gonna affect me in that sort of way. Like, you know, like, I know who I am, I know what my values are, I know what I stand on. Um,
But would you say
so
that was a racist comment to call you a coconut?
probably, but not necessarily. It's hard. It's hard to distinguish it as racist, but it's more of uneducation on their worldview. Like, they have a different worldview. Like, you know, anyone that's had some bad experience, it's like like, this is basically how I see it in a nutshell. People have a perception of bald men with football shirts on and England flags. They have a perception. They have a perception. White, I say, bald white men with flags and England shirts on. People have a perception on that, and that's based on their experiences. Like, you know, and also as well, when you do see racist chant, or you see people acting in a certain way, they do tend to look like that as well. Like, you know, it's hard to distinguish when you see a bunch of white men with flags and stuff like that. It's quite hard to distinguish which is which. So the main reason why I was going there, I wanted to see it for myself. Like, you know, I wanted to see, and I was treated like, you know, there was one idiot. There was one idiot that sort of did some sort of Nazi salute. Like, you know, he's a young man. He was a young man, and he was just. For me, it looked like he may well believe all that stuff and be that way for sure. There was probably definitely racist people there, but if I'm speaking on a whole, um, a lot of really nice people were there, and you wouldn't expect it. Like, you really wouldn't expect it. And they were really happy to see me. They were like, and some of them felt embarrassed. I could see that this was the first time some of these people have even been to a march, and, you know, they're going for whatever reason they're going, you know, whatever their intentions are. But some of them felt really embarrassed, like, you know, and then there's some of the, you know, like, when you see, I'm not like a small guy, so people will size you up naturally anyway. There was a lot of that, and I feel like that's just natural, especially from young boys, like, you know, that were on the lash, like, from 9 o'clock, like, you know. So that's just
And
gonna
the
get,
rest, the lash
and the
and
rest,
the rest. Yeah.
and the rest. Oh, good God! I thought I was at one. I thought I was at a reggae rave, mate. The amount of ganja that was in the air, I thought I was at a reggae rave. To be honest with you, man. But but yeah.
Well, can I ask, Brad, was there any other, when you looked out in the crowd, it was predominantly white, yes, you
Yeah.
said. And did you see any smidgets of any other races there?
There was a mixture. I would say it was 90% white and maybe 95% white. And bear in mind, I'm talking about big numbers. So, like,
It was
I would
massive,
say
those
I would
numbers.
say there was at least 1 million people. At
They
least.
lied on the press because they don't want it to seem like they had large numbers there. But when you saw the aerial views, it's impossible that there was only 150,000. It's impossible. There was
Yeah.
a lot more than that.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Um. Yeah. So I would say, so out of a million people that I'm just, like, you know, presuming, like, making an assumption, I would say there was, you know, it was like, I would say it was like 1,000 to 1, or maybe 2,000 to 1, or something
But
like that. But
did the black people there? Did you catch each other's eye? Did you give each other a little nod? Was
do
there
you
any-
know what? There was a kind of embarrassing. There was a kind of like an embarrassment look, like, you know, as you can probably imagine when you see that, like, you know. But I must admit, I did tell this story on my TikToks and stuff like that. There was a guy with a tattoo on his face, like, you know, he looked like a proper wrong, and, like, I thought, oh my God, this guy's on something, and he's walking hand in hand with a beautiful black woman, like, you know. So it's something that you can't necessarily prejudge people, and it's not fair. And there was, like, the look that I had from a lot of white people was like, oh, you're supporting us, you're standing with us, like, you know. And this goes back to the thing of being proud to be black and British, like, you know,
Exactly.
because some of them are thinking, like, well, what are you then? You're saying that you're, like, you know, you're having a go at us for our England flag or whatever. What are you then? You're not English? Are you not proud to be English as well, sort of thing, you know? You don't have to be proud of everything. You don't have to be proud of everything, like, you know, England's done in the past or whatever. But, you know, I can't think of another country I'd want to be from. Can you?
I'm
And
very
born in.
proud. I'm very proud to be English, mate. It means a lot to me. That's all. You know, if people don't understand that, I don't give a monkeys. I am very, very proud to be English. I'm blessed, mate.
Yeah,
I'm so lucky. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I must admit as well, you know, there was a lot of comments that I was getting in my chat, and people were saying you're not English, you know, you're not English, and all that sort of stuff like that. And that, like, you know, if you, well, I mean, what do you determine as English? Like, you know, so most black people most black people in England or people of color in England have been born in England. Most of them haven't ever even been out of England. Like, you know, England's all they know. England's what it says on their passport. Like, you know, if there was a war today, we would have to, and everyone was prescribed to go fight. We'd have to go and fight for this country. Like, you
No, I
know,
would if
yeah,
I could.
you
Like,
know,
maybe I'm too old, but I would.
yeah. No, I mean, but some people, like, you can't change some people's opinion. But this is the problem: you can't allow people are entitled. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and there are people in this country that have an opinion that if you're not white, you're not English. There are people that have that opinion, and they're entitled to their opinion. But just because they have an opinion, like opinions, like you, as famously as someone once said, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. But I feel like everyone is basing their worldview on those opinions, on like the racists that have the English flags. They get out of our country. We
I
some
think
white
it's a bit
country and all that
arrogant,
sort of
bro,
stuff.
to try and tell someone what they are. I think it's very arrogant to
There was
try
there.
and just say to anyone, "You're this or you're that." How do you know what someone is? How can
Yeah,
you possibly know what someone is? It's impossible.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's not like the bloody 50s and 60s. People are going to mix now. Like, people are going to mix, aren't they?
People have been mixing like since the moment they got people have been mixing since the moments people of color got here, and you know they've always been mixing, like, you know. So like, you know, I feel like while speaking to yesterday when we were speaking, when people are saying about multiculturalism has failed, what was funny yesterday, we had a funny advert. It should have been an advert for this movement. Like, you know, there was this guy shouting multiculturalism has failed in this country, and there was this white guy walking past with his mixed race son, walk right past them, like, you know. And I was like, really, bud? Like, you know. So I think what people need to just stop saying multiculturalism is failed. There are people that think, you know, there's too many black and brown faces for sure, but the opinion from what I see is from the predominantly Asian areas that they're picking on. Like, they're seeing that, like, Luton is always used. Luton's always used. It was it was 100% country. Now it's 50-50 or something like that. I don't know exactly what the demographics are in Luton, but it's very mixed basically now. And one thing I said to people yesterday is, why did you move? Like, you know, the council ain't building new houses every day. Like, you know, they're not. They don't build enough houses. Like, for the area to become 50% Asian and it was 100% white, that means 50% of the white people moved out of that area. And I don't think I got a clear sort of answer from anyone regarding that sort of, like, you know, you can't leave your area because when people if black and brown faces move into an area and the white people move out, you're telling those black and brown people the message they're getting is very clear. They don't want to live with us. So they say sod it. Especially the Asian community, they say sod it. We'll just stay with our own people then, you know? And then more and more white people move out, and then what's the answer? Like, you know, for me, the answer ain't moving out and leaving your area, because that's almost cowardly. It's like you're giving up the country because a few people moved in.
I think, yeah, that's an interesting take, Brad. What I do know is that when you say somewhere like Luton, you're saying, because when American people say Asian, they often talking about Chinese, Japanese, and and all sorts, right? I think it's worth making clear to people who see this that I don't know for sure, but we're talking about Asian as in, say, Bangladeshi or whatever, like that sort of region, aren't we?
Yeah,
Pakistani,
I,
Bangladeshi. Because when
yeah,
I'm just trying to think
that
back to
probably
when
would,
I lived
yeah,
in
yeah.
Blackburn, I'm trying to think back to when I lived in Blackburn, and I think it was mostly Pakistani people there, but that was a 50% town as well. I'm just trying to think back because I can't remember. I'm pretty sure most people were saying they're from sort of Pakistani. Now, say if you're an English person and you're used to a certain culture and you're not used to certain things, and things start happening in your area, or say if you're anyone from any country and things start happening culturally in your area that you don't like, you're probably going to move out, aren't you? Right?
I, I
I,
don't think I don't think that's the answer. I
I'm
don't
not
think
saying
that's
it's
the
the
answer.
answer, but
I,
English people are known for being a stiff upper lip and keeping quiet and quite dignified in their responses to things. That's okay. If you talk about French people, you're talking about, they say, oh, French people are arrogant. If you're talking about Germans, Germans are economical. We've all got these little things. French, Italians jump around the neck, sat in having a coffee. We're supposed to be the ones who have got this tight British lip there. You can't say anything and just quietly move away. Then also, chatting to some of my Asian friends, like one of my Asian friends, he said to me something like, yeah, I've got 4 kids now. I haven't done very well. Now, 4 is not doing very well in that particular culture. Let's just assume that that's, if he said that to me, maybe that's how things are in his culture. So maybe in their particular culture, it's, we can have as many youth as we can.
No.
I'm just one of 2, right? Me and my brother, and that's it. But one of my Asian friends, and I've heard a couple of people say it, but I remember him saying it to me, and goes, I've only got 4. I need to get a move on.
Yeah. They're big
So-
families. I think the
yeah.
average is like over 6, I would say. Over 6. is
Over
probably
6, right?
average.
So it could be overwhelming. Not for, I don't care, but I'm just trying to put my eyes into someone who's from Britain who might not be used to any culture, right? Say if you don't like certain smells of certain spices or certain foods, that, because I've heard people say, oh, fuck, I can smell some smell. I don't care, mate. I was brought, Mauritian people, we're very mixed, yeah? We've got so many different cultures from all over the place, right? If you saw my mum, you'd think, mate, is that actually your mum? You don't, you know what I mean? Like, we're very, very mixed. So we've got, even in our cuisine, we've got all different types of food, right? But I'm just saying, if you're an English guy, right, and you're not used to certain things, and you're not used to certain cultures, and then say if you start seeing a load of women dress in a certain way, right, then you're not used to it. Is it fair that a British person might quietly go, I think I'm going to go somewhere else because I don't want to be around this? Not for me, because I don't give a monkey's blood about anyone, right? I was having barbecues with the Polish people when I first moved to this town, and I only hung about with the Polish people for a good 6 months,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't care, mate, but I know English people that can be a bit timid when it comes to stuff like that, but we stiff upper lip,
Yeah.
very stiff upper lip.
I just, for me, like, if you leaving your area, because like someone came in the chat yesterday and they said, oh, they loads of it, like my area is full of Asians and stuff like that, something along the lines of that, and they don't clean the streets and they don't do this, they make a load of mess.
Heard
And
that a few times, yeah.
I said to him, so like, that's not something that would make me leave my area. Like, I can't think of any country in the world, like maybe barring America, but America is very like economically diverse, like, economically segregated, and that's probably the same with everywhere, to be fair. But I can't think of any other country where they invite people in and they would leave their area to let that community come in and overpopulate that area. I can't think of any other country that would
But I
allow that
don't
to
think
happen.
there's anything you can do about it, whether you stay there or not.
Yeah, but I think you can have a conversation, because at one point it would have been 10%. At one point, it could have been 10%, and you can choose. You can choose to go over, which is the English way, to be polite and say hello, how are you doing? And if you see something wrong, I know this is like really like really like in an ideal world where everything's perfect, but that's the only thing I can think of. Like, you go and you introduce yourself, you say, oh, welcome to the community, and if you see
British
something
people are
wrong,
too sweet, mate. British people are too sweet and nice, and they just stay quiet. Like in my mate's shop, yeah, they only say certain things because they know that I feel like a British guy. But it took me to reveal that I'm very British before conversations started opening up, because they didn't want to say anything in front of me, bruv, because they was waiting. What's this guy? What is he at? Where's he at? I'm roast dinners, mate. I'm roast dinners. Okay,
yeah,
that's how I am. I'm proud of that. If I had to fight for the country, bro, if I got a letter coming through the post tomorrow, Nick, you've got to go and fight now. I'm fucking proud. Excuse my language. I'd proudly go ahead, not bothered. I would go ahead. I would,
yeah,
because I wouldn't want my people in this country of all different nationalities. If I could protect them, I would.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what
So
I mean. Would you? I would fight for the country, man. Would you?
I mean, most. I mean, obviously, I like, if I've got my sort of political head on, like, I would, if it got to a stage where we were if there was an aggressor towards us and we had to
That's
sort of
what I
go and
mean.
fight,
That's
of
what I
course
mean.
of course you'd have to, like, you know, you live in this country, you'd have to. But like, you know, if it was something like going to fight like for a foreign interest, like, you know, for like fighting for other countries, like wanting to take over and do all the
Different.
rest of it, like, you know, no way, like, you know, like if, for instance, if they said, oh yeah, you have to go and help Israel with what's going on in Palestine, like, you know, in Gaza, sorry, no way would I be interested in that. But let's get back to then being
Black
black and
British.
British.
Yeah.
There was a video on social media. I'll just sort of roll it through, where a black guy was wearing a England shirt and he was walking around. You know, he was very proud to be English, all the rest of it. This guy got into an argument with another black guy, or I don't know, he's either black or Asian. You know, I'm not sure 100%. And the Asian guy punched him in the face. Like, you know, just punched
What?
him in the face, and I
Because he
think
was
all he was doing was just talking, saying why he was there, like, you know, and he had some valid points, like, you know, like what most people do, and he was punched in the face. And what was quite interesting to me was that there was a lot of white people saying exactly the same thing, but this black or Asian guy only decided to punch the black guy. And online, the black guy's been like, I've seen it all. I've seen how are you walking around with that three lines on your shirt and all the rest of it. And then you've got like this black guy. He's literally coming out and he says, I'm England. I'm English. I was born in England. I'm here to represent England. Like, you know, I don't know exactly what his politics were or whatever, but, you know, he was there and showing, like, you know, the biggest statement that, you know, and, you know, if you got, I think where some people, where some white people might look up and be like, hey, what's going on over there? These guys are born in England and they're not even proud to be English. Like, you know, what's going on? Like, you know, there's that sort of look. So when they do see a black person saying, yeah, I'm proud to be English, they feel, okay, they want to welcome you into their team almost. Not everyone. Don't get me wrong, not everyone. Like, you know, there will be people out there with hard views. You ain't white, you ain't English. There are people out there, and there's a lot of people out there with unconscious sort of racism. Like that unconscious, not racist, unconscious bias, let's just say, where they have their own worldview in their head. Like, you know, they what an English person looks like is a old white man with a cup of tea in his hand, like, you know, or a white boy. You know, that's how some people see it. And even now, you saying that you like your roast dinners and you feel British, you feel English, guarantee you in the comments there will be tons of people coming in and saying you're about me, you're this, you're not English, they'll never accept you. And when you hear people say, oh, they'll never accept you, you're basing your opinion on what racist people say. On
I
what
don't care,
racist
mate.
people
I mean,
say.
I don't care, mate. I mean, they can say what they want, Brud. Yeah, I know I'm English, mate, and I like being English. And I'm very proud of it, and I don't care what people say, mate. You know, you get a lot of these black people, black British people, and they say things like I'm African, or in my case, my parents are from Mauritius, right?
Mm.
And again, I just want to make people clear out there that see this. My parents got a letter through the door that pretty much said British people don't want to look after their own in the hospitals. We're looking for people to come and do the dirty work. Does anyone want to come and do the dirty work? To which both my parents said, yeah, we'll come and help out. And then they did that for their entire careers. Okay. So they've been wiping asses and all sorts, mate. Right. You know, and, you know, a lot of these people who say these things, they get treated by doctors or people, you know, they may slag off, say, the Polish people. I know there's a lot of Polish people working in the hospitals now. So a lot of these dirty, what is considered as dirty jobs or jobs that people don't want to do, they have to go elsewhere, don't they, Brod, and get people
That's
to do
that's
them because the English
that.
people don't want to do them.
Try make people understand that, like, you know, that is just so, it's one of the most basic things you'd say, like, you know, you've got air, you know back in the day, probably when you were young, just like me, being a binman was considered like a job for, like, you know, not a proud job for like, you
Yeah,
know, for a white English
disrespected.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you know.
right. Yeah,
So back in the day, it used to be all Africans doing bin work and stuff, and a lot of it is still Africans doing it now. But, you know, there's a lot more white people doing binman jobs and stuff like that now.
but
There's a
you're
lot
talking
of
about
it.
London because I've never seen an African doing a bin round here, mate. But I'm
Oh,
from a white
really?
place.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
never.
okay. No,
No,
definitely.
I've
No,
never seen it. I've never seen it
uh,
once.
bro, let me tell you this. I come out my house yesterday. I went to Fulham. Not yesterday. It's the day of the Tommy Robinson march. I come out my house, and I heard this like reggae music. This boom, 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 boom. Like it's like some mad reggae music coming out. And this African guy was doing his binman rounds, and he was just like jumping up. Like, my man was having like a party, bro. Like, you know, literally. But in London, you see it all the time. Like, you know, doing them sort of jobs. It's very common. Like, you know, in the city as well. Like, you know, and that's one of the major things as well. Like, you know, that's where I was born. That's my city. And there's a lot of people, a lot of brothers said the same thing. You ain't making me run scared in my own area. Like, you know, you ain't making me scared in my area. And, you know, that's what it is. But, You know.
But you
What?
there's also when I've been out with, say, certain women, or I've met certain women, say
Oh
white
yeah,
women,
it's a good point.
right?
Good point. Yeah.
Sometimes they're disappointed that I haven't been to prison. Sometimes they're disappointed that I'm not a fucking coke dealer.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're disappointed that I don't speak with a twang.
Hmm.
And there's sometimes they're disappointed that I don't sound like a freaking roadman. Well, the
Hmm.
problem is, I got that beaten out of me by my dad when I was younger, you see, because he didn't want that to affect my opportunities in life. Because he said, like, if you're going to sound like that, son, then unfortunately, there's only so far you're going to get. Do you think there's a pressure on black people and young black people to behave a certain way? And also, people have said to me stuff like, "You don't sound black." That's a massive insult to me. That's a massive insult. And I say to them, "What do you mean by black?" And what they're trying to describe is a roadman accent. Well, I'm not from roads. I'm not from
Yeah.
roads. I know. And can I just
Yeah.
point out, Brad, to your viewers as well, of all colours, I know about my own culture before you start saying things like you don't know about the culture. Yes, I do. I know about the food. I know about the culture. I know about the history and all that sort of stuff. And if me and this man were to sit down and discuss it for an hour, we'd have a brilliant conversation about it. But it's just never come up. We only usually talk about British things at the moment, don't we? I don't think we've ever had this conversation, have we? But go on, what's your thoughts on all that? Like the pressure on how you're
Um,
supposed to behave in somewhere like this, if you're
you
black.
know, I've definitely shared some experiences like with like I've been in sales most of my life. I've been in sales and stuff like that, and I would book appointments on the phone, and then I'd turn up to people's houses, and they're like, "Hey, you're Carlos," and most of the time they'll say you're a Spanish. We thought you were a Spanish guy. What that tells me, just breaking that down, what that tells me is that some white people, their perception of black people is what they see on TV, like literally what they see on TV. And what you see on TV is a guy with saggy pants that probably sells drugs. He's a gangster. He's a bit of this, bit of that, and that's quite embarrassing to see. But then again, we can flip that. Some black men act like what they see on television. Like like in America, they created like rap and hip hop culture was created to sort of be like, to sort of a way of expressing themselves, a way of getting their music out there, getting black people on the map as well, and then they started getting white people listening to their music, and now a black rapper goes to any concert, it's predominantly filled with white people, sort of thing. So they succeeded in that because they got people on the side of black people and helped them in their movements, civil rights movements, and all that sort of stuff. Like but unfortunately, it's taken too far now. Like it's taken way too far where people think rap and drill is drill's the new thing in America, in England now. They think rap and drill is that's what a black person is. That sort of like vibe and stuff like that.
They're
Like
missing
rather
it, aren't
than
they? Yeah, they're missing out
yeah,
though, Bob, because I think when you go to London, you go to Walthamstow, whatever, and you hear Greek kids that sound road,
yeah,
and you hear young Turkish kids or young white kids that sound road. It's nothing to do with the color of the skin. It's the area of where they're from. They've got
mm,
a road accent because they're from Walthamstow or whatever. I understand that, but why I'm saying is, do people associate that with all black people must speak like this to get anywhere? I find that ridiculous, mate. And
yeah.
sometimes I've spoken to black people and they will almost insult you because you don't sound road. What the fuck? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, yeah,
What's wrong with you?
yeah, and likewise as well. You mentioned a little story there. I used to have white women say to me all the time, "Oh, you're not black. You're not black." I used to work on the doors, and I used to speak to people. I predominantly dealing with drunk white men, like predominantly in the bars and football games and stuff like that. And they would be like, "Yeah, you're not black. You're not like." They'd say stuff like
Why?
that to me all the time,
Why?
because literally their perception of a black person is whatever they see on TV, or the only black person that they know that probably isn't probably the best ambassador
Would
for
you would
us.
you go up to a white person and go, "Oi, come over here"? You ain't white. I would never, ever, ever, ever do that.
Yeah,
Never,
yeah,
because I would be so ashamed of myself to walk up to a person and tell them
yeah,
what they are.
yeah.
Who the hell am I to tell
But
you or
yeah,
anyone else, Kitty or anyone, what they are? Like, were people
yeah.
stupid or something?
Yeah. What's funny though is I have seen white people go up to other white people and say, "Why are you acting like a black person for? Or why are you
Yeah,
acting
you
like
get
an
that. Yeah, yeah,
why are
yeah.
you acting like an N for?" But like literally the culture of rap drill, all this sort of R&B sort of music and stuff. That's what's taken. And let's just be very honest, like, sort of like street mentality, like, the street side of it, like the drug dealing in America and stuff like that. It happens here, obviously, as well. But people see that, it's all on the movies, like that's what's publicized, like Top Boy, like, all these kids, like, all of them, white, black, Asian, they all round like they're
Right.
in like they're in Top Boy or something like that, like, that sort of mentality sort of thing. And that's what's taken over people's minds, like, and unfortunately, some white people don't associate. If you don't associate with black people and all you see is the guy that you know, or you see what's on telly, it's quite sad, because that goes to show you the power of programming, like, like psychological programming, like, like where you're just unconsciously thinking that a black person is this way, like, for me, like, my dad, my mum, we all spoke properly. My parents always encouraged me to talk properly, like, and yeah, I can't share any other, like, I can't be anything I'm not. Like, don't get me wrong, around, like, when you're younger and stuff, like, yeah, you joke around and maybe use some words, you think it's cool. But
Yeah. Yeah.
as you
You
get
realise.
older, like,
Yeah.
and you can only ever be true to yourself. And some of these people, they're true to themselves in their own way, in the sense that they've allowed the programming, like, they've allowed the programming to sort of get them to act like that, like, walk around, like, like they're on the street corner selling weed or something
It's
like
a
that,
shame, man. It's a
and
shame.
they're eating lollipops or something, like
What I
just
mean,
eating
but to
lollipops and
me,
hanging
like,
around.
just they haven't got the confidence to speak like me, right? They haven't even got the
To be to
confidence
be to be themselves. Most
to
people,
be
don't
yourself.
want to be
To be
themselves. Yeah,
yourself. Yeah, just you don't have to fit in. You don't have to try. Do you know what I mean? But I don't understand it, bro. Just it's like you have to speak a certain way to get accepted as black, and that way is like a freaking Neanderthal that can't speak proper English.
yep, yep, yep. I remember I was going out with this white girl once, and her brother was like really sort of like tried to be ghetto. And I remember her mum said to me, he's not racist, is he? Because there was an incident that happened. He's not racist. He's more black than you are. Like, and, that's the kind of thing that's in people's minds. Like, talking a certain way, acting a certain way, dressing a certain way.
But they
And
would
it's,
also make the assumption that you don't know about your own culture, which that really gets on my nerves
yeah,
as well.
yeah, but it's like, like what, like it's just one of those things where it's like a massive thing right now. What's happening is, like, people are just labeling everyone, like, not everyone is able to articulate themselves and speak real truth of emotions of how they're feeling. And, like, you get some people that, especially on the other side, especially on, like, on the sort of reform sort of voters, they normally always pick at the ones with, like, bad teeth, and, the ones that sound like they don't. I won't say stupid, because that's a bad way of
But
describing them.
that's what they do,
But
bro. That's what they do. Yeah, I've noticed that.
fair enough, yeah. But they do try, like, that's like the perception of the march, like, is of that all these people with no teeth and no
Yeah.
jobs and blah blah blah. And this is why it's so important to go and see for yourself. Like, there were so many people saying to me, "Oh, be careful! They're gonna kill you out there. They're gonna do this and blah blah blah." And I thought to myself,
No.
really, this can't be right. So I've
What's
got to go
made
see it for
them feel
myself.
like that? What's made them feel like that? Because I've seen
Agen-
black people marching on many of his marches before.
yeah, agendas is always a thing. Like, there's a lot of like, on this march as well, guys. I had to make it very clear. I weren't part of no march to. I'm not no suck bum. I don't follow no one. I've got my own mind, and I went to see for myself. That's the reason that I went there to see. Like,
But why do you have to justify why you went to a march about Britain? Because you're concerned about the
no,
country,
well,
perhaps? You know,
I'll explain. I'll explain, because during this march, there was a lot of Islamophobia. There was a lot of people shouting, some nonsensical stuff, sort of thing, like really anti-Islamic sort of stuff. So you don't want to be associated with that. That's one of the reasons why it's very important, like, to be like, for me, you have to say stuff like that. Like, it's not something like, well, I'm ashamed to say I'm English or whatever. Like, and Tommy Robinson ain't my master. Like, I was saying to yesterday, I was watching when I was there, sorry, and when the speakers were speaking, like, there was a lot of random speakers that came up, and it wasn't received very well from everyone, but there were some people, like young boys, like, and they were just like looking up, and they were like, yes, yes, like, you know, just like, you know, they were just looking. It's like looking for a gang to follow, like, you know, looking for a leader to follow. There's a lot of people that want someone to follow, like, you know, and someone that's maybe saying things what they thought but not had the courage to say, sort of thing. And there was a lot of that going on, sort of thing. But
Mate,
you know,
you know something, Brad, right? All my parents have ever taught me, which I believe is true, is English people are the most nicest, warmest, most welcoming people. That's all I've ever known, right?
yeah,
I've got loads of white friends,
yeah,
loads, and I won't have a
what,
bad word said about any one of
yeah,
them, right? I
yeah,
would stick up for me. And I have to think about that, Brad, because I can't see colour. You're not Brad, my black friend. You're Brad, my friend. It's only when I think about, oh, what's Brad? Oh, shit, he's black.
mm,
It does, because I don't really see. I don't think, oh, Kitty's white. I just think Kitty,
yeah.
right?
What about when that guy headbutted you and during that racist attack? Like, what
Yeah,
about then? Did that make you feel any different? Like, you know,
yeah,
did that
because I
make
was
you feel
young, mate, and
angry?
I didn't understand it, and you know, I wanted to kill people and all that, and I was thinking, like, why have I been attacked for nothing? Like, I didn't do anything. Why have I been
Mm,
attacked? Will it
yeah,
happen again? It even affects me now because I think I could get attacked now, and I
yeah.
could.
No, yeah,
Either,
of course.
either one of us, blood. Like, if me, you know, you and I went for a few drinks around here, unfortunately, someone might have a few too many beers and come and provoke or whatever because they're feeling a certain way, which is really
Yeah,
sad, you know.
yeah,
And also, like, I just want to say, like, again, if say if you're from a certain culture and you're not used to certain things, and all of a sudden that's been pushed on top of you, it's going to be difficult to take. And I think when you go back to the
definitely.
West Indians that again come to the country to work, right, and rebuild and all that sort of stuff, from what a lot of people are saying, there was a nice eventually there was a nice blending of cultures where everyone started to sort of accept one another's food.
Yeah.
Maybe we like reggae, reggae's nice, or we like this song, or we like this Bob Marley guy. And there was a
Most
bit
people
of a,
do.
yeah,
Most people
there was
do.
a nice amalgamation of cultures, but it's not always possible with all cultures, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
You
And,
know?
you know, and I spoke about during the march as well, like why you wouldn't, like, you know, there was definitely people there that, like, you know, because Tommy had this great idea of having all these people from different communities, like, you know, the boys doing the haka. He had a black choir up there, with the woman singing, and I must admit it was young boys saying it, but when the black girl came on camera, there was a few people did say, we don't want any of that, you know. So there's certainly, you're not people, some people ain't wrong, but I'm saying it weren't the majority. It weren't the majority. There were definitely racist people there. Like I said, a guy did a Nazi salute in my face, basically, you know, when I got there. Like, you know, there was definitely racist people there for sure,
Again, like
but
again,
not everyone was racist, I'll say that.
of course, but what have these people been through, right? So, say if you found out that one of these racist people, just for an example, had their sister had happened, something had happened to them uh, via the means of someone of color or whatever. Okay. And perhaps you're from a completely white background, your granddad's this and all that sort of stuff, and you've been fed a certain way, and something's happened to your sister. You might have a stronger view
Yeah,
on that sort of thing. Like if someone
yeah.
punched my mum and it was from a certain thing, you might be inclined to think, well, I no longer like anyone from that particular thing. If you're not intelligent enough to really sit down and think about stuff, if your
Yeah,
granddad's constantly telling you from your younger,
it's not even necessarily intelligence. It's more just split second of emotion. You're angry and you've got something visual to target that person for. Like Liam Nielsen once famously said, he got himself in a lot of trouble. You know the guy from Taken?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
One of his friends got raped by a black person,
yeah,
and
that's right, yeah.
he came out on social media and said, for a, when my friend told me she had been raped by a black person, I was infuriated. I went on the street and I was looking for any black person to start on, like, you know, because I was that stupid. And then he sort of logic eventually kicked in, and then he went home, like, you know. But, you know, like, you know, it's like I think it's like 90% of people know I think it's like 90% of people that are victims of sexual abuse know their attacker. Like that is, it's a very common thing. Like people getting pulled off the street and pulled into alleyways. It doesn't necessarily happen like that. And you know, 50% of it is ex partners that do it to sort of thing as well. Like, you know, so the stats are there for people to look at. And to your point, like, you know, so what happens if a white person, which is more than likely, rapes you and you're a white family? Are you gonna hate every white person? Some
Well,
women do.
this would
Some
be
women
my
do.
argument as well. Yeah, this would be my
Some women
argument.
do. Some women. I know some women that have been abused by some women. I know some girls that have been abused by family members, and they won't date a white man anymore. So I
Yeah,
that so there is that as well, and
it does
no
work.
one
Yeah,
knows
both ways. Yeah,
how you feel. But then again, let's flip it. If you're an Asian person and you're like, Asian attacks are like, up really up at the minute, like, people are being attacked, and some of my friends, like, some of my Asian friends back in when I was younger, it was common for the Asians to get beat up and attacked and stuff like that, like, it's very common. So like you said, like, you got headbutted and it affected you for a little bit. Some of these people, their whole life has been that, like, running from the NS, running from the skinheads, like, like, how do you think that makes them feel any more British? Like,
no, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's all
so
divide. Yeah,
it's very difficult. But I feel like once all the dust settles, you have to come to the conclusion of, like, reality, like, where you were born. Like, for me, if you're born in England, you've been raised in England, you're English, sort of thing. Like, that's for me. That's my thing. Like, and some people don't agree with that. A lot of people don't agree with that. Like, a lot of people think that, just because you're born here doesn't mean you're English. Like,
I don't understand that, mate. I mean, I don't get that. But then that's how I've been brought up. I've been brought up to respect the country. Now, if I move to France tomorrow, let's just say England was in a lot of trouble today and we're getting bombed, and I live in Tunbridge Wells, quite close to London, whatever. And we're told, right, evacuate. You've got to move countries because the next 2 days you're getting it, right? Keir Starmer's wound everyone up. You've got to go to France, Nick. You've got to go to France, right? Do you know what the first thing I'd do, Brad, when I got there? I'd learn French. That's the first thing I'd do. Do you know the second thing I'd do, Brad? I'd get a baguette. Do you know the third thing I'd do, Brad? I'd get some fromage. I'd start living like the French people, me. I would.
embracing the culture.
I would live like the French people. I'd speak their language. I'd eat their foods, and I'd respect who they are. That's how I've been brought up, though. I wouldn't start going, oh, I'm English, though, and, I just want to come here and eat all your food and chill out with you and all that and be here and annoy you. But by the way, I'm not you. I would switch, mate. I'd know I would still be English, obviously, but what I'm saying is, Brad, I'd have enough intelligence about me to say, I'm not going to disrespect these people by pretending that I'm nothing to do with their culture, and I'd try my very, very best to slide in.
Yeah,
That's what I would do. I'd learn French. I would definitely
yeah.
learn. Imagine if you're in a country like when I was in Blackburn, and I was telling you as well, that sounds similar to Luton to me, when you're saying the percentages are quite high and it's split, whatever. There was people coming up to me, mate, speaking languages that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
You're asking for buses and shit and pointing over here, and I'm like, I don't speak that. And I can understand if you as a British, as a British person, it's going to be helpful if someone speaks British, isn't it?
Yeah, but embracing the culture is very, very important. But I feel like when people come over and they bring their families here and they move into a street, and they're probably very nervous. I can think, you imagine the first Asian family that moved to an area, they were probably very nervous, and then to start being victims of attacks, and then also start moving away, like, just during the south after the Southport riots, there were gangs of white men they went to the Asian areas, and they went door to door, kicking doors in, smashing car windows. What do you think that does to people's mentalities? What do you think that does to people's minds? Like,
It's
you
no good.
can't even you can, like, that's probably the that's something, because you can't fight a mob. As tough as you are, you can't fight a mob. My thing was going to this march. If I got jumped, I was gonna rip someone's eye out their head. Like, I was taking one eyeball with me if I was to go down. Like, that was my thing. But going back to the thing, like, what those people went through, you know, live upstairs with their kids, hiding their kids for being a certain color or being from a certain culture or a certain
It's not
area.
right. It's not right.
The damage that has done to some people,
Yeah,
like,
psychological.
and
Yeah,
then people were wondering why the next day all the Muslim men were out saying, right, you want some, we're together now,
yeah.
come, let's fight.
That's
Like,
what happened. Yeah,
that's just basic common sense. Like, people will pair, just like you lot paired up, they'll pair up. But it's about separating the bad apples, but it's very difficult. If you're that person that was clinching your kids, hiding, and all you saw was England flags and white men outside your house, how do you distinguish between that and then you see it in a march or something like that? You're like, but, and obviously I was in a
then
privileged.
you. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, bud. But these people who are going doing that stuff, I'm not condoning it. but they're hyper emotional because of what they've just witnessed. Their girls getting, killed, and it was horrible,
it
horrible.
went,
And
yeah,
if you haven't got, again, I put intelligence might be the wrong word, but if a thought process isn't there, and some Tom, Dick, and Harry says, "Come on, let's go down there and kick a few doors in, mush." If you're in the wrong mood, hey, and you're the wrong type of personality, and you're not thinking, and you've got nothing better to do, you might stand up and go, "Yeah, come on in."
yeah. I don't know though, because that is that's like literally, just if you get like if someone says to you, all right, you're in a bad mood, you're broke or whatever, I've got a gun, I'm gonna go rob a bank, yeah, come on with me, come on, we're broke, we're gonna get some money, like
Yeah, I'm talking about emotional connections, Brad. I'm talking about highly emotional connective things which people go through, which may lead them to do things that they massively regret or they're not even thinking about because their emotions are so strong. And I don't think you can compare doing, say, a random bank robbery to what happened in Southport. Like, that made the people very emotional. I'm not saying they dealt with it right, Brad, and I'm not excusing what happened there, but I'm just trying to go back to why someone might have been kicking some freaking doors in. It's not the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? But you got to ask yourself what would precipitate a person, because I'm one of these people, bro, that believes that no one was born bad,
no,
right? It's only through our experiences that can make us a certain way. That's why I've got nothing against people who speak like they're from road, that come from road, that talk about road, that come from that life. You spoke about the hip hop and stuff. A lot of those guys that started it, as you know, Brad, were doing it on the back of that Rodney King stuff in
yeah, yeah,
1985,
yeah,
1986, and people were very frustrated and they were talking about their lives.
yeah.
Now you get people who have been to bloody public school trying to do it. That's where I
Yeah,
think,
that is what it is. Unfortunately, like I was gonna say, like if you like, for instance, Stourport riots, whatever. If you lived in a big house and you had 3 kids, lovely house, lovely job, earning loads of money, and your mate Jimbo knocks on the door and says, "Come on, mate, we're gonna go do some rioting," you're gonna politely shut that door in this guy's face,
yeah,
like
off you go, mate. See you later.
it's people. It's unfortunately the people that will commit violence, the people that will be eager to do it, are the people that don't have anything and they're looking for someone to blame. A classic example: when that Liverpool incident happened, where the guy ran people over, people were ready to riot until they
Yeah,
realised the guy
until,
was
yeah,
white.
that's right.
The riots were over when that
Mm,
nurse killed all those babies. When that nurse killed all those babies, poisoned babies. I think it was
yeah,
like 13 or 14 babies. No one rioted. So if you get to a point where you're only looking to riot when a black or brown
yeah,
person does something, you have
yeah,
an issue. You know
yeah.
what I
I
mean?
agree. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's
So,
almost like racist, basically.
well, it is racist, like
Yeah,
that is racist,
yeah,
And if you're allowing someone to bring you along with this thing, like because like you. What I saw during that march, one thing I saw a lot of followers, a lot of people that were ready to follow, a lot of sheep. I saw a lot of that. Like if you don't have the brain power to comprehend that if 1,000, let's just say, if 10,000 immigrants, well, like, if 100,000 immigrants worldwide come over and start moving to this country, and 10 of them do something wrong, to blame all of them for it. If you don't have the power, the brain comprehension to do that, like then you're a follower and you're a sheep, and there's nothing anyone could do from you. Like
yeah. I heard you and Kitty talking about this, and one thing you didn't mention is, of the 43,000 that have come this year, all blokes, all blokes.
yeah,
When I say all blokes, there'll be a very, very small percentage of women, but
yeah,
from all the footage we're seeing,
yeah,
from all of the boats, when you
yeah,
see the footage of the boats, I know we shouldn't go off the media, we can't really
yeah,
trust them. However, Brad,
yeah,
when I'm looking at the footage of the boats
yeah,
look like they're full of men.
yeah,
When I'm looking outside the hotels, and they're all smoking those brand of cigarettes they were smoking,
yeah,
whatever they're called.
yeah,
They're all blokes. When they're coming off, and I feel like I'm being disrespectful talking about these people like this. When I'm saying they, I don't know how else to put it. When the immigrants are coming off the coaches, do you see any women getting off the coaches going into the hotels?
yeah.
Right.
Um,
So that would also make a lot of women and people feel unsafe, regardless of the 10 people out of the 1,000 that do something wrong. The fact that it's 1,000 blokes.
yeah. But what about
Where's your family?
what about the Polish men though that come over though? How comes no one feels scared about them?
Well, because they usually come over with a wife and a kid, or they
Not all of them.
usually
Not
no,
all of
no,
them. And
but
not all
a
of
lot
them.
of them do. But a lot of them do.
Yeah,
right?
and let me
And
tell you
it's,
something quickly. Sorry, about the Polish guys that come over and stuff like that. I had a Polish friend, and I was speaking to her. And she was very into her politics and stuff like that. And she was saying to me, the Polish people that they're sending over here, they're the criminals that they don't want in Poland.
mate, I've met many, many, many Polish people, and I'm
Yeah, me
hoping
too.
now,
Me too. Me too.
right?
Me too. To be fair.
I find Polish people really, really nice people. Yeah, that's all I can say. I like their culture. They like my culture. Um, I think because if you like someone's culture, it can make things a lot easier. But going back to what you were saying, Brad, a lot
Mm,
of the Polish people I know, it's not just men coming over. It's not just Polish men at all. I know many Polish women that have come here, and also I don't think it's comparable because they weren't illegal immigrants. They were people that were legally immigrated from a lesser economy by the book. Whether they're the bad criminals or not, they're all by the book because it was when the EU was up and running.
yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of them have done it legitimately. They haven't crossed the bloody channel because they know. You look in France, Brud, you've got Tao Paulin.
Mm,
That's why no one wants to stay in France.
yeah.
And then the French ones are the ones going, well, you could sit piss off
Yeah.
England, you dickheads.
Yeah,
You put
I
them
did
in
see
hotels.
something. I did see something about them trying to have better relations with France and communication. Where I think they are sending people straight back now. There are plans. If you come over from France, there is a system now in place where I saw it on the news just today. So I don't know what the turnover period is, but they are intending to send people straight back now that come. They've sort of made some sort of deal with France or whatever, and to send them straight back. But ultimately, as well, the people when see this is what like people are saying. A lot of people are saying that it's a predominantly white country and England should be white and all the rest of it. There was a lot of that also. And when you hear that, especially I was looking at the black faces that were there with the English flags and stuff like that. I was like looking to kind of see their reaction to that. How does that make them feel when they say, "Oh, this should this is a white
I
country."
think, to be honest with you, Brad, right?
Mm,
You said something about this the other day. This may annoy a lot of white people when I say
yeah,
this, but
yeah,
I don't care because it's the truth.
mm.
But you touched on it the other day. White women seem to like us. Yes or no?
100%.
I've had many nice relationships with many white women, right? They've got no problem with black men at all,
No, no.
right? So I think the guys that are saying this sort of stuff, they're probably thinking, shit, our girl like them. Our girl
Yeah,
do like them black men. What is it? Are they cooler? Are they more chilled out? Have they got more game? Are they? Is it the skin color? Is it the way they flex? Is it the way they roll? Is it the
yeah,
music? Is it the vibes? And that's when
yeah,
all the lovely things about the black culture and who we are as people come into play.
yeah,
Because it's going to be hard for them to keep it white because their own women, from my own experiences, have no problems with us whatsoever. If anything, quite like dating us. That's what I feel.
yeah. And that will, I know it does. I know it upsets them. To be honest,
Yeah, you're going to
most
feel
white men,
insecure,
it does
aren't you?
because I've spoken, dating so many white women throughout my life and stuff. One of the things that they've always said is, oh, they always get their white male friends that they've had since like childhood saying things like, oh, why'd you like black men for, and all the rest of it, sort of thing. And that does. That will, and you see some white women, they're extreme. They're like,
Yeah.
they're quite open on social media. We don't date white men, we only date
Sorry,
black men. And that
we apologise for that. I mean,
yeah, I know. What can we do? What can we do? There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, and that's the thing. It's like people are choosing. Know what? Like people are choosing to have babies with black and brown people, to have relationships with black and brown people. How can you be? What is the answer? Like I said to you, even on the march, a guy with a tattoo on his face, he's walking with a black woman. He's got his girlfriend. Guy walking proudly with his mixed race son with their England flags on. So and ultimately as well, if you're not having children, but this is a Western women thing as well. I feel like Western women at the minute, they're not choosing to get into serious relationships. Like most of them now, if they haven't been in a serious if they haven't found a serious relationship by the time they're 21, 22, most of them are using these years as they call it the hoe phase. This is a popular thing where they just go sleep around, have parties, and do it. That's a Western thing. In the Asian culture, their thing is fat. They're very old school values, like old school, even what we'd call old school British values, where you'd have a wife and you'd have some children, like But that has gone now. Western women don't want to have babies. They're chasing their careers first, and they're putting relationships to the back. Like oh, we'll find a relationship when I'm in my 30s and blah blah blah. Like that's a big thing at the minute. Men are struggling at the minute. Men are struggling in the sense that they can't find a woman, like especially if you haven't got game, you're dead anyway. But if you haven't got means as well, like you may as well be invisible to some of these women, unfortunately, because they're all chasing options that they think they have. They're chasing sex options and thinking those, getting confused with sex options and relationship options,
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of, I try to put it as nicely as I can, but
Say it as it is, bro. Say it as it is.
yeah, I mean,
If you're being polite and you're being real, just say it as it is. You're not trying to insult anyone.
yeah, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but I know women who just do sexual favors for men.
One
and
second, sorry. I'll be
go
2
ahead,
seconds. I'm just
go ahead,
putting
mate.
my
You
charging
go
my
ahead,
camera. 1 second.
go ahead, bro. Go ahead, mate. We'll just wait for him to come back, people. I hope you're enjoying this discussion today. For anyone who's out there, you got any questions for Brad and I about any of this sort of stuff? We've got some nice, fresh opinions for you. We're thinking outside the box and that. You can have a chat to us, ask us what you like, ask any questions you like. We're ready to answer your questions about this.
There we go.
But
There we go.
oh, I forgot
There
what I
we
was saying there, Brad.
Sorry.
It's all right, mate. It doesn't
We
matter.
were talking. We were talking about white women choosing to date black men, and the reason why some people might be like a lot of men being angry, obviously, because women aren't giving them the opportunities and stuff unless they have means or got serious game.
Yeah.
And I think you.
Yeah, I know. I know a
possibly
couple of women who, I think women just want money overall in this
Yeah.
day and age. Like, I think that's the overriding factor. I know a lot of women who just do their half an hours, whatever they got to do every day, just to have their bank account fulfilled. But my worry for them when they get older is how long can they take that for? It may be well and good for the first 2-3 years. Oh, this is good. All I've got to do is this once a day. Then I can
Yeah.
go and buy my handbags and that. But you worry for their mental health when they're older, and they sit there and think, "I'm stuck in this situation with this guy, and I'm stuck here because of the money." Fair enough. I mean, they're gonna have to deal with it then.
Yeah.
And
I think
and one more thing, buddy. It's a shame to see so many people splitting up all the time as well.
over money,
And
over money.
yeah, over
Sometimes
money, over money.
a
Yeah.
lot of it is over money.
Yeah, they're in love when they're 22, aren't they? When they're 22 and everyone looks like David Beckham and they're all in love, everyone's fine. And then when it comes to,
Yeah.
well, the next door neighbour's got a big garden, well,
Exactly. You
divorces
said
suddenly happen. It's really
you,
bad.
you said it. You said it before I even had to say it. This is the thing with social media. Everyone's posting their new holiday, their new car, their lovely house, their new kitchen, and people are seeing it, and it's making them really resentful.
Yeah,
It's making people really, really resentful. Social media, seeing people's successes and stuff like that, and in a relationship, unless you've got like a real one, so to speak, is like someone that's in there with you. Yes, you can always
yeah,
want more and stuff, but someone that's not gonna like crap. Like some women do shit on their men and make them feel like shit for not having what their friends have got and what their things have
they
got.
do. Yeah,
That's a really big thing, and one of the leading causes of suicide in men is that sort of not feeling like a man, like you're not feeling like you're providing, you're doing stuff, and if you've got some woman crapping on you, they say women always say, like, there's this perception out there for men to speak up and talk, but the men know just by history, if they even showed an ounce of weakness to that woman will start to lose respect for him. And not all women, some women won't, but
yeah. Most will though. They say the right thing at the right time. Most of them, but I'm telling
for
you, there,
sure.
man. If there was another guy and they met another guy down the bar and the guy flashed a bit of money, half of them would jump ship. And that's why, brother, I don't. I've had many opportunities to settle down, and I haven't taken them because I'm like, unless I can tell a woman proper loves me
Mm,
for who I am as a person, right, which is
mm,
very unlikely in this day and age. Yeah,
yeah,
very unlikely. I ain't going to settle down because I don't care, mate. I'm not just going to
mm,
pay for some clown to do favors in an empty relationship. I'm not interested. I'd rather be on
yeah,
myself. I'd rather do my own thing. I've got better things to do with my time than get some woman's handbags just because she's got a nice ass. Get out of my
yeah.
sight.
Yeah. I mean, people are dating with intent. When I say that, I mean, like, so a lot of guys that I know of a certain age that are single, like, you know, my sort of age, what they're doing is they're going with older women, like really older women. And the older women are happy to have this young buck looking after
Yeah,
them, and they will actually look after them as well. Like,
yeah.
you know, so that's
Yeah.
there is a cheat code to everything. Like, you know, to get out of get yourself out of a situation. Like, you know, like, all you have to do is marry this 70-year-old woman. Like, you know, and she's got all this good stuff. But you,
I start looking, mate.
occasionally you have to close your eyes and go, ah. Yeah. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. All
Uh,
right. All right. All right. All right. On closing there. Closing go. Bang on an hour mark.
yeah,
Nikki,
perfect.
final thoughts. Final thoughts,
Yeah,
mate.
thank
Final
you, brother. I
thoughts.
really enjoyed that. It's a refreshing conversation. I just want to say to any black people out there, right? If you feel like people are making you speak with a certain accent, don't be that weak. There's no point. You can speak with whatever accent you want. I prefer to choose a British accent just because I speak like this. It's got nothing to do with my blackness at all, right? I'm a proud British guy. I love the British culture. I love British people. I've got people of all different colours as my friends. And I absolutely love talking to this English distinguished gentleman known as Brud C. People, give him a follow, support this man because he's bringing some really novel conversations to the internet that you haven't heard before from a very nice perspective. Big him up and get him followed.
Hmm. And that would be my thing, guys, as well. Like, you know, I spoke about it a lot. You know, a lot of people aren't able to articulate how they feel and say exactly what's going on in their lives, and that's what makes them angry sometimes. So, like, you know, if you do hear any of my videos and you do want to come on and have a chat, like, you know, it's not rushed, it's not pressured. You know, I'm not like gonna quiz you. I'm not gonna ask you to look in a dictionary or anything like that. Like, you know, it's just a platform for people to speak how they feel. I do want to speak to a lot of men. I do a lot of life stories and stuff like that, guys. So all are welcome. Hit me up on any of the socials. Hit this man up. I'll tag him in all the videos. Nikki DJ Nikki New. Peace and love to you, bro. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
joining.
man.